Reva's point of view. That girl has gotten on my last nerve, yet I keep her around. But why should I torture myself so much? I just wanted to make her feel something rather than just tense, yet she had coldly rejected me. Of all people, she rejected such a gracious offer. Any other woman in Albion would have leapt at the opportunity. Damn it, I said aloud to myself. I gave a sigh and sat at my desk to think of how to approach this matter. I could just shoot her and be done with it, or banish her from my home. Yet either way wouldn't satisfy my inner desires, which were still questionable. Sophie had always given me a run for my money, and I wanted to have her for myself. She had resisted my charms on more than one occasion, and she even raised her voice to me a few times. I was pretty sure at this point that she was still sore about my sudden but inevitable betrayal, back when I had sold her to Lucien, or when I attempted to sacrifice her youth and beauty to my little friends. But the past is behind us now. I suddenly heard an odd sound, like a sort of whimper, so I looked around the room but saw nothing. Something then touched my lap, and I had reacted quickly to the feeling, and to my surprise, it was Sophie's mutt. My first initial thought was to shoot it, since it had begun to get fur all over my lovely trousers, but then something else clicked in my mind. Go on. Get the bloody hell out of here, you cur. Shoo. He didn't budge. Damn it. Go away. The dog suddenly rose to its feet and began to yank at my shirt, as if to lead me somewhere. He continued to do so until I complied with his demands. He led me out of my quarters and straight outside of Sophie's room. Damn dog, ruining my good shirt. I dusted myself off to brush away any fur, and that's when I heard Sophie speaking to Terry. I leaned in closer to the door and attempted to listen in on the conversation.
Sophie, you shouldn't let him get to you so easily. I know it's difficult, but...
My only mistake was thinking I could love him. He could never understand the feelings I carry, and at this point, I'm giving up all hope. He could never know, for it would be pointless.
Sophie, in love with me? I thought. Impossible. I sighed and rested against the wall, and the mutt looked up at me and let out a small whimper. This is all your fault, dog. Theron nudged my hand, but I quickly pulled it away and began to walk back to my chambers. That mutt was a smart one, but rather irritating and destructive of expensive clothing. I had gotten to the edge of the hallway until I noticed that the dog had followed me, so I spun around. Yes? What do you want? He just looked at me and cocked his head. I can't believe I'm letting a mutt get to me. Suddenly, he barked loudly behind me, and I whizzed back around, completely frustrated. That's it. I pulled out my pistol and aimed it straight between his eyes, which didn't even faze him. Sophie's head suddenly popped out of her room and called out to the mutt.
Farron, what's wrong, boy?
She looked down the hall and saw me with the gun to the dog, and her tears had completely left her eyes.
Farron? Reaver!
She burst through the door and ran at me in a fit of rage, her feet stomping loudly down the hallway.
What the hell do you think you're doing to my dog?
She yelled. I wore a serene look and spoke softly. "Look, this is a big misunder." Her fist suddenly hit my face and it connected right between my jaw and my cheekbone.
Damn it, Reaver!
I flew backwards, but she came back and dragged me to my feet by my shirt collar to her eye level.
Don't you ever go near my dog again!
She warned, with fire in her eyes. I began to laugh to myself at her attempt to scare me. She had spunk for sure, I'd give her that. I wanted her to break to my will and cave, so I pulled a little stunt to see how far I could go. I leaned in before she could reply, and crushed my lips against hers with passion. She quickly pulled away and gasped.
How dare you after all you've done!
She yelled again, but I quickly silenced her. I leaned in again, but this time I had pulled her in, to deepen the kiss. And to my surprise, she didn't try to pull away. She just leaned into it, and wrapped her arms around me, one of her hands tangling in my hair. Soft lips pressed into mine, and the feeling of her against me was better than anything I could imagine. We both pulled away simultaneously, and our eyes instantly connected, and her face flushed a deep red. "Can I just explain myself now?" I asked calmly.
Reaver, it doesn't matter. I'm leaving to find a new home, and there's nothing you can do to stop me.
"You are still under my employ, and your debt must be repaid," I said loudly.
I said I'm going. Come on, Farron.
She called to her dog and left down the stairs. I heard the large door slam downstairs, and I had grown angry and hurt for letting her escape once again. I had never let a woman have free play of my emotions, and I wasn't about to start, but somehow I just couldn't help myself. This magical hero had caught me in some sort of twisted web of hers, and I had no chance of escape.
I felt refreshed as I walked away from the mansion, and out to the waterfront, and I was rather proud of myself. I passed a fruit stall, which was run by a young man I had encountered on my early travels. I had escorted him to Bloodstone to help him pursue his business, and he noticed me instantly.
"Hello, Miss Sophie."
He waved to me. His dark brown locks peeked out of the worn bandana he wore, and it hung down near his eye.
Ivan,
I said cheerfully.
how have the sales been?
"Oh great, Mom. All thanks to you.
He bowed and smiled.
If it weren't for you, I'd be nowhere in my life."
Thank you, and take care, my friend.
I waved and said my goodbyes, then I made my way down to the docks. Farron stood close to me, since he knew we were about to fast travel, and he sat down obediently. I engulfed us in light, as I took us back to Oakfield. We made our way to the large pile of burned rubble, and I slowly took in what we saw as a horrible memory.
I guess we need to move, Farron.
I sighed.
Let's see if we can find anything here. Search.
I set down my bag and began to dig through the charred remains of my old home. I had thought it would be best to move to a different area of Albion, in case Reaver decided to send a search party for me. I dug for about 20 minutes, but I found nothing of great importance that needed saving, but I grabbed some things anyway to see if I could sell them. I gathered what I could, then Farron and I took a carriage ride to Bowerstone Market once again. The journey had given me a bit of extra time to rest up. While I went around and sold some items in the market, I had also been in search of a new home, and I couldn't be too picky in my current situation. I found a comfortable home in Market that was practically hidden from sight. I thought that my friend and I were rather lucky this day, so we tried to settle in the best we could. As we walked through the town to buy dinner, many of the locals stopped me and said their hellos and praises. Our food had been purchased, and we were on our way back to our new home, and I was thankful I found a wonderful place in the time that I did.
Let's go to our new home, boy,
I said to my friend with excitement. Farron began to poke his nose at the satchel that hung at my side, and he gave out a loud whimper.
There's nothing in here except...
I dug through it and pulled out an object that hadn't belonged to me.
A journal?
I breathed.
Where did this come from?
Farron pushed the book with his nose and whimpered again.
Let's go home and read it while we have a hot and mutton.
I smiled, and Farron jumped in excitement. I started to run home and I had Farron chase me, but I purposely slowed down so he could run ahead of me. He jumped up and pulled down the door handle with no problem and burst up the stairs. I followed right behind him and plopped down onto the bed.
Thank Avo, I'm in my own bed.
Farron jumped up on top of the mattress and laid next to me, and he quickly fell asleep. Sleep refused to come to me. All I could think about was the past few days and how drastically my life had changed so quickly.
I still miss that mess of a man. But why? It's just not right.
Why do I miss that dreadful woman? She complained about everything, even after I was so gracious to let her kiss me. She's constantly gnawing at my mind.
I couldn't help but think of him in those moments, and of the few little times my mind would wander. When he walked toward me with just his white shirt slightly unbuttoned, and when we had kissed briefly and our eyes connected. I longed for more moments like that, but with Reaver, it wouldn't happen often to where it was truly genuine.
I can't believe this. Damn you, Victor. Just I.
My body told me to sit up from my bed and reach for the strange journal. It was a very expensive leather-bound tome, so I opened it carefully and read the inscription on the inside of the cover. This journal belongs to Victor Cromwell.
Cromwell? Who on earth?
I began to read through the pages, and it told of a man's life over 300 years ago, when Oakvale had still existed. It told of his tragic tale of immortality and death, almost as if this were a tale of fiction. Some passages I read aloud, so as to imagine what this man went through.
See that man as he was back then. As beautiful, as fiery as me, but so delicate. So breakable. Then I see him running madly through fields, the realization of just what price he was unwittingly paid.
My thoughts went to Oakvale and its demise, which happened so often in my time. My great-great-grandfather was the first hero of Albion, and he was born and raised in Oakvale. It had suffered from a terrible bandit raid when his dad was slaughtered, and his mom and sis were taken.
Reaver is Victor? Gods, it all makes sense. It has to be why he's the way he is. And he sacrificed his family.
I am not he. I am River.
Those pages would haunt me till the end of my days, and I knew that this would affect my friendship with him. But would I truly let it get in the way?